Hey everybody! So I was looking back over my timeline and I realized that it's been over 2 months since I first started this journey to have more of a positive outlook on my body, have more positive body image and self-confidence and all that good stuff. And I feel like I've really come a long way. When I started, there wasn't like an actual goal really, other than just like a very general, like, love myself more, be satisfied with myself, stop hating on my body so much, and learn to see myself as beautiful, whether I fit into the narrow mold that society has set when it comes to the way you're supposed to look and all that. And so I didn't really know what I was doing at first, or I just was playing it by ear, really. And I feel like I'm so much more informed now. I feel like I have a much more positive outlook on myself. I'm still not exactly where I would like to be. I feel like this is a journey that I could probably honestly continue for the rest of my life. But, and so I'm going to continue going, but there's just a lot that I feel like I've accomplished, and I'm really, really proud of it. I've been educating myself a lot, following a lot of new people who are in a body positivity, part of the body positivity movement, following them on social media and reading blogs and articles and watching documentaries and listening to podcasts, and just feeling not so alone anymore. I mean, I knew I wasn't, but it's so nice to just hear people open up and say the things that are uncomfortable and a little taboo, but that I've been thinking this whole time, or that I've been feeling, and they just come out and say it, and I'm like, yes, amen, sister, like, you get it. And it's just nice to know that other people have those same, like, deep, dark thoughts about themselves, or the deep, dark feelings that that's are difficult to voice, and they're doing it, and I'm like, oh yes, what you said, that's how I feel, that's what I think as well. So it's just been really great. One thing that I haven't addressed so far, though, is something that I've kind of come to terms with. I've like, there's so many layers to the reason why we think the way we do about ourselves, and so much of it is bred in us at a young age. I always think back to, there's that poster or meme or whatever, I've seen it posted on social media, with like the kids that are playing with each other, and they're all from different races, and it usually says something like, you know, children aren't born racist, or children aren't born to hate. It's something that they're taught. And in that same context, I feel like the way we view ourselves, that we're not born hating ourselves, that we're taught to hate ourselves, or to think less of ourselves, or to feel like our self-worth is lower than it actually is. And so much of that starts by our environment, the environment that we grow up around as children. I know you hear a lot of stories from women who were made fun of, bullied in school, and by their peers, who still struggle with that, with insecurities that were just piled on top of them and just like beat into them by these bullies in school and such. And I am so grateful that, as far as I can remember, I was not bullied in school for the way I looked. Like, there were the occasional like immature teenage boys who like make snide comments or whatever, but nothing that I recall being like life altering, or just like nothing that I remember like coming home and crying over. Like, there were some bullies, but they didn't bully me about my weight or about the way I looked, for the most part. For the most part, most of the people I went to school with were very supportive of me. They liked me. They liked being around me. They thought I had a good personality. They liked that, you know, I was smart, and that I was funny, and, you know, had all these things going for me, and it just didn't register with them to make fun of the way I looked, even though for myself, I was constantly worried about it. But I don't recall it ever being an issue with my classmates and stuff, thankfully. Which, you know, I feel like I'm very lucky because that's not usually the case, because kids can be cruel. And for the most part, they weren't to me. The place where I was probably bullied more than anything was in my home, which is sad because that's your home. That's where you're supposed to feel the most support. And that's where I was taught that the way I looked was wrong. That's where I was taught that fat is synonymous with ugly. That's where I was taught that I was always going to be fat, that I needed to really cling to things like my intellect or, you know, my personality, because that stuff needed to make up for the fact that I was ugly. And a lot of these things weren't said specifically, like, you know, word for word. They were very passive, coming from my parents and other family members, but it was definitely something that was instilled in me from a young age. And I grew up in a home where my dad was very verbally abusive, mostly to my mother. As I got older, he would become more verbally abusive to me. And when I first moved back in with my parents, after having lived in Indiana for 2 years, I could tell that he got meaner over the years. He's really good at hiding it, of course, as most abusers are, from the general public, but behind closed doors, he's mean as an old junkyard dog, as the Southerners like to say. And the thing that he would go to with me, because anybody who's familiar with abusive situations, you know that the abuser always tries the issue is control. So he's going to use whatever your weakness is against you to try to keep control over you. And what he used on my mother growing up was her issues with her weight and her physical problems that she had. She had ended up having a tumor in her uterus that by the time the doctors were able to take it out, it was over 10 pounds. And that it made her have a lot of health problems. It caused her to gain a lot of weight, and not be able to lose that weight. And so that was a constant struggle with her. And he, instead of being the supportive husband that's like, honey, I love you anyway, doesn't matter, he would cheat on her and blame her for his cheating escapades. And make her feel like because of the way she looked that she wasn't good enough. And so she was constantly worried about her appearance. And I watched him break her into a million pieces. I watched her go from this beautiful, vibrant woman that I remember as a child to, by the time I was a teenager, she was depressed and never left the house, and she was sickly and broken. And thankfully she's not the woman she used to be, and I'm very, very proud of how far she's come. She's like she has so much more life and is so much more vibrant now, and it's been really good for her to not be with him. But he used that to keep control over her, and he tried to use that with me as well, because anytime that he would get upset with me, which was pretty often because he would just have these crazy mood swings that you didn't know where they came from, and he would immediately go to call me fat and lazy and other choice words that I will not repeat, but, you know, cursing me, not just saying these things, but screaming them at me, sometimes in the wee hours of the morning, like while I'm supposed to be asleep, while I'm the most vulnerable, waking me up, cursing me, and calling me fat and ugly. Obviously, this doesn't have anything to do with whatever he's angry about, but just to keep me down. And growing up in that environment, that's something that if it's instilled in you as a young child, no matter how smart you are, no matter how self-aware you are, it's something that's going to be embedded in you so deeply that it's going to take some work to get it out. And that's what I've been really trying to do as an adult. I've had to reteach myself a lot of things, especially when it comes to relationships. Having grown up under a father like that, I have very little knowledge of what a good father is supposed to be or what a good husband is supposed to be. And thankfully, this is a testimony. God has sent people into my life who have been good examples for me, who have functioning marriages and functioning relationships with their children, who've shown me what real families are supposed to look like. And I'm so thankful for those people, because they have helped me develop into what I feel like is at least decent adult and made me not so fearful of the future if and when I get married and have my own family. But I feel like this whole body image thing, body positivity, looking at myself in a new light, is kind of like the final frontier in this healing process of like really getting over the hell that I experienced growing up in my house. And it's been the hardest hurdle to get over, but I can see progress. And I wouldn't be able to do this if I was still living with my father, if he was still on a daily basis shouting curses at me and constantly putting me down, even though I don't believe what he says, and I don't put any weight in what he says, because I know he's basically insane. But still, that just being bombarded, hitting me with that all the time, it does a lot to your nerves. It does a lot to, it's gonna affect you in some way. And I feel like with him, since I'm no longer in the same house as him and no longer having to be subjected to that sort of abuse, now I'm finally able to sort of spread my wings a little bit and free myself of all of the just trash that he's thrown at me all my life. And so seeing the progress that I've made just in the past 2 months and I feel a little freer, and I feel like there's a little more life in me. I'm a little bit happier in my own skin. And like I said, I have a long way to go, but I really am proud of how far that I've come. And I feel like I'm healing more than maybe I had been before. And so I really appreciate everyone's support, and I'm sorry this video is so long. I just had a lot to say, but I'm going to continue posting. I'm going to continue to keep you guys updated on everything that's going on, and God bless you all. Have a great day.